Hello and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 6, Episode 10, The Race. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay. I'm not. I'm gonna confess, I'm really grumpy right now. I tweaked my back somehow. At this point, at my age, I don't know what the fuck I do, but all of a sudden I'm like in so much pain. I can't bend over. I can't lean to one side. Anyway, I'm sorry. Last week I said, oh, I could complain, but I'm not going to. But apparently this week I can complain and I'm going to. No, I guess I'm done. I'm just nursing a tweaked out back. I do think it was probably caused by laying in a weird position Monday night while watching all the games, the NBA playoff games that were on. And so anyway, there's no use. There's no way to know. But I'm trying my best. I've got some ibuprofen going. I'm stretching it out. I am using CBD oil, which is the first time I've used that. My mom had some in the room where she stays in our house. She's not visiting at the moment, but she uses CBD oil. So she was, recommending that for me. So I'm using that, doing everything I can. I'm not icing or heating it at this point, but I think that's next because, well, this one of the things I had on my list to talk about, which I'm very excited about, and I'm crossing my fingers that my back will feel close to normal by this point. I am flying to Salt Lake City, Utah later this week to film a really fun commercial. I'm really excited. So, yeah, that's very exciting. So I'm not going to complain about that. I'm just a little bit worried that, I won't be completely limber as I'd like by that point of the shoot. But you know what? I just got to think positive and keep doing what I'm doing. It's a funny spot, so I love that. And in my audition, I did some physical comedies, so that's a big reason I want to be able to be mobile to, full range of mobility by the time I get to this shoot. So, so that I can, kind of knock it out of the park with some physicality, some JLD style physicality. At this point, there's no way I could do the Elaine dance. Not that I was planning to on this commercial, but I'm just giving you an idea. I'm giving you a very relevant reference point for this podcast. The way my back is right now, there's no way I could do the Elaine dance. And, isn't that always the goal, to be able to do that? I also have a wedding to go to in a couple of weeks. I always bust out my Elaine dance at a wedding. So, you guys, there's a lot of things at stake. So, please keep me in your thoughts. And, just send me some good healing back vibes or whatever you do. I would really appreciate it. Other than that, I just want to once again recommend JLD's podcast. It's called Wiser Than Me. I'm just loving it. I look forward every week to every episode. These interviews are so incredibly insightful, and I do the thing where it's such an old person thing to do, but I nod along as I'm listening. I'm like, I react audibly. It's embarrassing, but I'm not going to be embarrassed about it. And yeah, I really recommend it again to men or women. It's wisdom. It's wisdom everyone should have. And I think definitely such a triumph for JLD to give a voice to these older women who just get forgotten about in so many ways in our society. And good for her. Good on you, JLD, for bringing their voices to your podcast. All right. Now it's time to get into the episode. So the synopsis for The Race is as follows. Jerry's high school rival stages a rematch in a foot race Jerry unfairly won 20 years earlier. Kramer's backfiring car helps Jerry win again. George's response to a personal ad in the communist newspaper leads Steinbrenner to suspect he's a communist. Kramer then loses a job as a department store Santa Claus, while Elaine's new communist boyfriend is upset when Elaine gets him blacklisted at a Chinese restaurant. This episode was written by Tom Gamble, Max Pross, and Larry David. All right, so we start out in Lois's office. Lois is Jerry's girlfriend, and he keeps saying her name quite a bit, and she notices that. You really like to say my name. Her boss, a man named Duncan Meyer, walks by, and she introduces him to Jerry, but he already knows Jerry from high school, and you can tell right away there's some tension there. He tells her that, you can't leave. There's a lot of work to do. So she asks Jerry if he can come back and pick her up before the movie. Well, I'd have to be Superman to do that, Lois. The actress who plays Lois is Renee Props. She has appeared in many shows and films, but the longest stint of her acting career was on the soap opera As the World Turns. I think she's fine, totally okay. This is such a flat character. Yeah, I don't know. There's just not much to her. She's really just a conduit between Jerry and Duncan. She also, I'd like to point out, has the most 90s hairdo of, I think, anyone on the show thus far. She's got the, what Elaine's going to get in a couple of years with the hair just kind of swooping into her face. Yeah, whenever I watch this episode, I'm like, oh yeah, we are smack dab mid-90s. All right, next we are in Elaine's apartment. Elaine is checking her Chinese food delivery, and she's so annoyed. It's all wrong. Where's the cashew chicken? The delivery guy's like, you didn't order any cashew chicken. Nope. She says, I didn't order any of this. I'm not paying for this. So he grabs the bag, very angry, tells her she's now on their list, the do not deliver list. George is there also at her apartment, and she's like, well, I guess we're just going to have to go out. He's perusing a copy of the Daily Worker and asks, why do you have this? She says, oh, Ned, her boyfriend, must read it. Your boyfriend reads the Daily Worker? Well, he reads everything. He's very well read, or maybe he's very well read. You really think he's a communist? Elaine asks. Well, let me ask you this. Does he wear drab clothing? Yes, he does dress a little drab. There you go. He's a communist. And then George spots a personal ad for a comrade that includes the wording that appearance is not important. He loves this. Jerry enters. Elaine asks, where's Lois? She couldn't make it. George can't believe that he's finally dating a woman named Lois, and Jerry's so delighted as well. But then he tells George, guess who her boss is? Duncan Meyer. Whoa, George pauses. Who's that? Elaine asks. And Jerry then tells a story about how he beat Duncan Meyer in a big school race because of this head start he got that no one noticed. But Duncan was always suspicious, and he's hated him ever since. And he never raced Duncan again, no matter how much he was begged to use his God-given talent. And he would answer everyone the same way, I choose not to run. And now Duncan is back. My take on this scene, first of all, I love the change of scenery. We're in Elaine's apartment. Her interaction with the Chinese delivery guy is fun. Obviously planting the seed for later. And I just love how irritated the guy is. Apparently, there's no customer is always right rule at Hop Sings. Second, I love that we get to see some Elaine and George interaction, just on their own. The whole discussion about Ned is really fun, setting up the whole Elaine and George plots for later. And I just want to point out, I always love when Elaine and George are sort of going at each other, arguing brother-sister style. But I also very much enjoy these types of interaction. They're just talking as friends. And that moment when George asks about the drab clothing, she's like, yes, and puts her hand on his arm. It's fun. It's fun to see these types of interactions between the two of them as well. Jerry's portion is fun. Not much for Elaine to do except be the reason to tell the story. But it's definitely a classic Seinfeld scene when he talks about that infamous race, and it's always a really fun one. All right, next we're in Jerry's car. He's picking up Lois. She gets in the car, and Jerry asks if Duncan talked to her about anything. She's acting a bit odd, and then finally blurts out, why did you cheat in that race? He said you got a head start. And Jerry's like, no, he's just jealous because he came in second. So you were the fastest kid in school. Faster than a speeding bullet, Lois. Obviously, this is a runner on Superman. I don't think I have to explain this to any of you guys out there, but I just did. All right, next we're at Elaine's apartment. Ned arrives, her boyfriend, and she's being very cutesy with him. Another day, another dollar. Nothing wrong with that. You got to make that money, 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 money. Are you a communist? Ned's like, actually, I am. Whoa, a commie. And she says, wow, you must be bummed out with the fall of the Soviet Empire. Yeah, we still have Cuba, China. Yeah, but come on. Elaine then tries to, boost his communist spirits. You had 75, 80 years of making everyone nervous. You had a good run, so enjoy yourself. Clink with the wine glasses. All right, my take on the scene. All right. I'm going to be superficial here. I'm putting it out. I'm just saying it. But this is who Elaine dates. I mean, no offense to this actor. I think his performance is fine. But I'm going to bring this up again. The double standard here, the caliber of women that we're supposed to believe that Jerry, George, and Kramer can pull. This is bullshit. Elaine is the hottest in the cast. I mean, there can be no debate about this. And couldn't she have dated a hot communist? I'm sorry. This is just so frustrating to me. And it's not as if this character needed to be overly funny or anything. He's a pretty standard guy, yet we get feathered hair with awful facial hair guy. And this is who Elaine gets? No. I refuse. I refuse to believe this. That being said, JLD is adorable in this scene. I love the physicality from the moment he walks in to when they end up on the couch. It's super cute, really well done. And I also like that this doesn't bother Elaine. She's clearly so excited that she is with someone who isn't like a typical guy. Although everything physically is very basic. She's very excited that she's dating a communist. All right, next we are in Jerry's apartment. Jerry is explaining to George why he lied to Lois. What if we have a bad breakup? And he wants Duncan to go to his grave, not really knowing what happened. Elaine enters. Well, I'm dating a communist. Wow, Jerry says, a communist. That's something. Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? George tells her he called the girl from the personal ad in the Daily Worker. Jerry's surprised. The Daily Worker has personals? Yeah, and get this, they say that appearance isn't important. Yours or hers? I just want to note that Elaine is eating Oreos in her certain way. She's practically having sex with them during all of this. Kramer enters as Santa. He got the job at Coleman's department store, and they're all very happy for him. Mickey enters dressed as an elf, and he's the one that got Kramer the job and tells Kramer, hey, we got to go. As they're walking out, Kramer cracks his imaginary whip. On, Dasher, on, Prancer, on, Donna. It's not Donna, it's Donner. Oh, that part always makes me laugh. And I always have to, if during Christmas time, if there's any reference to Donner, I have to say Donna. Jerry gets a call from Lois and says that Duncan wants to get together. He's not sure about that. Jerry will have to think about it. He hangs up and tells George Duncan wants to get together for lunch. Obviously, he wants to get me to admit I got a head start. And then George gets this genius idea of pretending to run into them at lunch and act like he doesn't even know Jerry. He doesn't know we're friends. And he'll back up Jerry's story. Jerry loves the idea. George is pretty proud. He cheerses Elaine and knocks the water out of her glass all over her. My take on the scene, not much to Elaine here, but just an establishment of what I mentioned earlier, that she's very proud to be dating a communist. All right, next we're at Coleman's department store. Kramer is scaring the little girl on his lap with his made-up language. Her mother grabs her off of his lap and, gets her the hell out of there. The actress here who plays the mother is Eva Svensson. And, this is her only credit on her IMDb page, and I think she does a really good job. I like how bothered she is by Kramer. She doesn't speak English. Kramer turns to Mickey and asks, when's he going to get a break? His lap is killing him. There are no breaks. This is like a sweatshop. Elaine and Ned walk up and wave to Kramer. And as he's waving, a kid launches into his lap and Kramer falls down. Next, we're at George's office. Ada, his secretary, tells him that there's a Natalie on line 2. Natalie from the Daily Worker. Side note here. Why all of a sudden is Ada totally glam now? She's had a total glow up. I don't understand. what's the thinking behind this? Like, she was all homely and dowdy, in the last episode when he hires her. They have sex. She has, maybe because, okay. Well, all right. As I'm talking this through, maybe because she got that $25,000 a year raise, she's making more money than George. That's all she needed. She needs to glam up now. And all right. Well, I guess that answers the question. And there's no way to confirm it, but that's what I'm going with. All right, back to the scene. George starts talking to Natalie and pretending to be a communist, and we see Ada listening suspiciously. All right, next we're at Coleman's department store again. A woman named Arlene approaches Elaine. They're friends, and Elaine introduces her to Ned. He's a communist. Really? Oh, yeah. Big communist. Big communist. Elaine can't say it enough. She shakes Ned's hand, and Arlene and her son get out of there. The actress who plays Arlene is Denise Poirier. She's quite an accomplished voice actor. Her voice can be heard in dozens of shows. I'm not sure what to make of the Arlene character. I feel like this little exchange is chopped up quite a bit in the editing room because I don't know. Like, is she impressed by Ned, or is her quick exit kind of a signal that she's afraid of communists? I don't know. I don't know what to think of it, but I think Denise does a really good job regardless. But I'm just kind of like, what is, I'm always like kind of half studying as a aspiring screenwriter when I'm watching these types of shows. And so I'm always like, well, what was the purpose of having this exchange? And I think ultimately the purpose of the Arlene interaction was just to see how proudly Elaine announces Ned is a communist. So I think that is the point. But Arlene's reaction to me has always been a little bit confusing. All right, back to the scene. Elaine tells Ned that, we should probably do some shirt shopping. And, he's good-natured about it, but he does say, out of the question. Kramer and Mickey are done with their shift. Elaine introduces them to Ned, and then she excuses herself, saying she'll be right back. Kramer tells Ned he's ho-hoed out after 8 hours. And then Ned passionately starts in on some communist ideologies about Kramer's job, much to Mickey's dismay. Mickey's not a fan of this, but Kramer's interested. Talk to me, baby. My take on this scene, it's pretty transactional here. I like that little interaction about the shirt shopping between Elaine and Ned. I wish we got a little bit more of that, but it was clearly put in there to justify, what happens later when Ned opens Elaine's gift of shirts. All right, next we're at Monk's. Duncan, Jerry, and Lois are there, and Duncan is telling Jerry his win by such a big margin was impossible. And plus, he had beaten Jerry in junior high 3 times. Duncan is just overall very suspicious. Jerry looks over and sees George, who is looking at him with his mouth wide open. It's George Costanza. Oh, Jerry acts. Kennedy, hi. And then Duncan says hi. Oh, don't tell me. It starts with the Duncan. Jerry and George get into their lives with George insulting Jerry's profession, which prompts Jerry to call out how bald he went. They go back and forth like this. They're sort of getting off track of what they're meaning to do because they just keep insulting each other. And George is just lying and Jerry's insulting him. So George almost leaves when Jerry says, hey, wait a second. Remember the big race? Oh, the big race. So George backs up the story. No head start. Not at all. Duncan's not convinced. Lois suggests, why don't you just race again? That's a great idea, Duncan says. Nope, Jerry says. Out of the question. But then Duncan just eggs him on, says, you couldn't beat me then and you can't beat me now. That does it. Jerry says, all right, I'll do it. The race is on. Next, we're at Jerry's apartment. Elaine's really surprised. You're going to race him? Yeah, Jerry says, and now he's calling all these people from high school to come and watch. Oh, Jerry's so stressed. He's got to call this off. He can't let the legend die. Next, we're on the street, really quick scene of Kramer reading some of the communist literature that Ned gave him. Mickey doesn't really get it, and it seems Kramer doesn't either. All right, next, we're back in Jerry's apartment. George is on the phone, and he finds out that Steinbrenner wants to see him in his office because Ada told him he's a communist. Well, Jerry's like, don't worry about it. You'll just go in and say you're not a communist. You just called the woman for a date. Jerry gets a call from Duncan to set a race date. But nope, it's not going to work. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I choose not to run. Next, we're in Elaine's apartment. Ned does not like the fancy shirts that Elaine got him. She argues that he could still look like a successful communist. Fine, he says, I'll try them on. She says she's going to order some Chinese food, and Ned says, it has to be from Hop Sing's. She's like, really? I kind of got into a thing with the guy. He explains how his father spent so many nights at Hop Sing's figuring out how to survive after he got blacklisted. Your father got blacklisted? Ned says yes, because someone he trusted named names. Okay, Elaine says she'll order from Hop Sing's. He goes back into the bedroom while Elaine calls, and she tells them she would like a delivery to her address. And then we see that same Chinese delivery guy. He says, no, I know who this is, Elaine Bennis, and you're on our list. No, she says. She doesn't live here anymore. This is someone else. Well, what's the name? Elaine argues, you don't need the name, you have the address. We need a name, the guy says. Okay, fine, Ned Isakoff. My take on this scene, I'm not really a fan of the Hop Sing stuff, honestly. It's a bit of a stretch just to get like the whole blacklisting thing in there. It's not really my favorite. All right, next we are at Coleman's department store again. Kramer has a kid on his lap and he starts preaching this communist propaganda to the kid about his racing car set that he wants. And the kid gets upset and calls him a commie. Mickey tries to calm him down. Santa is not a commie. A security guy comes over to see what's happening. The kid tells him about Kramer spreading commie propaganda, and he gets kicked out along with Mickey. Next, we're in Jerry's car. Lois gets in, and she seems a bit distracted. And she tells Jerry if he doesn't race, Duncan is going to fire her. What? He can't do that. Yes, he can. He controls the means of production. What are you going to do, Jerry? Don't worry, Lois. I'll think of something. Next, we're back in Elaine's apartment. Ned is getting the Chinese food from the delivery guy, and Elaine walks out of her kitchen with her swinging door. I'm not sure if I've talked about this yet on the podcast. I have an abnormal love for those swinging doors that they always had in sitcoms for the kitchen. As a kid, I would fantasize about having one of those doors in my house. I don't know why. I just loved them. So I needed to point that out. Anyway, so the guy gets so mad after he sees Elaine. Ha ha ha! He knew it was her, and you tried to trick Hop Sings. And not only is she on the list, but now Ned Isakoff is on the list. Ned turns to Elaine, shocked. You got me blacklisted at Hop Sings? And the delivery guy says, she named names. My take on the scene, again, not crazy about the plot. And if Ned is this loyal to Hop Sings, then maybe he should date Hop Sings. Okay, see ya, commie. Get out of there. Your hair is stupid, and so is your facial hair. So Elaine could do better anyway. Honestly, the most exciting thing in this whole scene is her swinging kitchen door. All right, next we are in Steinbrenner's office. He tells George, the word around the office is that you're a communist. And George is a little bit freaked out. No, sir. I'm a Yankee first and foremost. Well, turns out he just wants George to go to Cuba to sign some talented baseball players down there and to get him some cigars. All right, next we are on the street. Kramer and Mickey are walking down the street. Mickey is yelling at him about getting them fired. I didn't think it was such a sensitive issue, Kramer says. What do you think's been going on in the world for the last 50 years? Well, I guess I screwed up. All right, next we are at the race, the big race. Jerry says he needs a miracle. Duncan tells Lois that if Jerry beats him, not only will he give her a raise, he'll send her to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Kramer then tells George, look, after the race, they need to leave for the airport right away. George is like, all right. Mr. Bevilacqua explains the rules of the race, and they get set up to go. Right before the gun is shot, Kramer's car backfires, and Jerry takes off, gets another head start, and he wins the race. There's a huge celebration. Jerry, in running towards Lois, Elaine thinks he's going in for a hug with her, but he knocks her aside and, heads for Lois, his girlfriend. Duncan is so pissed. We get these reactions from him. He got a head start. We can read his lips saying that. He also starts pushing Mr. Bevilacqua in anger. And then we get Lois asking Jerry, will you come to Hawaii with me? Maybe I will, Lois. Maybe I will. And then a little Wink to the camera. We also have a little tag scene in Cuba. Basically Castro is the same as Steinbrenner, whatever. I'm not even going to go into it because it's not my favorite. But my take on the race scene, obviously this is one of the most famous scenes of the series, and it's well-deserved. I love the slow motion. I love all the shots of everything going on, especially the shots of Duncan saying, "He got a head start," and pushing Mr. Bevilacqua. And then, of course, Jerry knocking Elaine aside is fantastic. JLD with that physical comedy falling down and that dumb look on her face. It's priceless. Really well done. One of her best moments of the show. Okay, I am going to take a quick break, and I will see you on the other side. When you're fighting the capitalist fat cats in your town, is your mouth making a statement, but your clothes are not? Are you sick and tired of private ownership and ill-fitting pants? Are you pro-blacklisting when it comes to your drab wardrobe? Then you need Comrade, rad fashion for non-fascists who want to look classy without a class system. Comrade is proud to provide all stylish communists with rad wardrobe options manufactured by communal means of production. All comrades share in the creative process based on his or her need and ability. So you can be sure that your Comrade purchase won't contribute to the corrupt profit-based economy. Take your pick of pinko pieces, from the Rad Red collection to Trotsky's Trends. No matter what worker wardrobe speaks to you, you can rest assured that if someone names names, it'll only be to talk about how rad you look in your Comrade outfit. Visit our racks of clothes located in the dining room of Hop Sing's restaurant in New York City. For a limited time, every Comrade purchase will come with a family-sized serving of cashew chicken. Comrade. Commie chic doesn't have to be bleak. And we're back. No real extras to speak of, so we're going to move on to Greg's sack lunch. Greg is one of our most trusted and loyal contributors to this podcast, and he sends us his thoughts every week, and he gives it to us in a sack lunch. All right, first in Greg's sack, his favorite scene and Elaine moments. He says, we actually get some George and Elaine interaction in this episode. I like the scene where he's at Elaine's house at the beginning, just the two of them, and they're discussing the communist guy Elaine is dating. It's usually Jerry who would have this back and forth with Elaine about who she's dating. And it's going well until Jerry has to show up and ruin it. Ultimately, Jerry's storyline of the revived feud with his high school nemesis over the race is actually my favorite part of the episode. It's rare that Jerry has the funniest thing going on. My favorite scene is when George is part of the setup, comes in and pretends to run into Jerry and Duncan. The back and forth where Jerry and George take shots at each other is so funny because he has to stick it to him even in the fake scenario they are in, especially after George starts by making fun of his comedy act. When Jerry calls out the hole in his sneaker, I lose it. Elaine's whole story with a communist is just okay to me. I like that we're seeing Elaine in a relationship and she plays it all well. I just don't find the topic that funny, I guess. I'm much more interested in her support of Jerry in the race, which brings me to the last favorite scene, which is the race. That final section in slow motion makes me laugh so hard because of all that is happening with all of the characters. And then the part where Elaine is jumping for joy, Jerry brushes her off and she falls. I have watched that part on repeat so many times because it was just always so funny to me. Yes. Okay, let's get through all of this. I do. Like I said, I like the George and Elaine interaction up top. It doesn't have to be contentious. They're just having a conversation. And you're right. That would usually be a Jerry and Elaine, interaction for any other episode. But what a treat that it was George and Elaine. And I totally agree. It's not an Elaine scene, but the best scene is that Jerry and George ribbing each other back and forth. And that look that Jason Alexander, that look when he's like, oh, the big race, like just glaring at Jerry like, yeah, I was about to fucking leave because you're being such an asshole. But yeah, that's why I'm here, right? Like everything is said in that facial expression. It is fantastic. Such a strong performance by Jason Alexander, and no surprise with that. I agree about Elaine's storyline, and I'll get more into that in my final thoughts, but we are totally on the same page there. All right, next in Greg's sack is his scene swap idea. He says, again, Elaine's story with the communist and being banned from the Chinese restaurant is just meh. I'm more into her involvement in Jerry's plotting against Duncan with George. The Kramer and Mickey story ties into the whole communist thing as well, and while there is some fantastic physical comedy from the two of them, again, it's just that topic that they keep milking, including with George trying to find a date through the communist personal ads. Okay, so it doesn't seem like you suggested a swap, but you're just saying, yeah, I know. I'm with you. The communist thing is just not that interesting to me. I know that Larry David is like a huge history buff and stuff, so like maybe it's more interesting to people who like know about communist history. I'm with you, Greg. It's not my favorite. All right, and the last thing in Greg's sack are his extra thoughts. He says, another just okay episode to me that is saved mostly by the race premise and dragged down by all things communism. Other than Mickey and Duncan, some of these guest stars are simply bad. Ned is annoying as hell. Maybe not a bad actor, but just written so over the top, as was the guy from Hop Sings, who is like a cartoon character. But the worst to me is Lois. And not just whatever that hairdo is on her melon. Oh, I love that we both mentioned her hair. She delivers her lines so poorly. I feel like she never read them before she said them on camera. What are you going to do, Jerry? Dump your ass, I'm guessing. He's dating you because of your name and definitely not because of your dazzling driftwood-like personality. Ooh, burn. Last but not least, I did notice for the first time that Hop Sings has a do not deliver list on the wall, and Elaine's name is the only one with exclamation points after it. She should love the exclamation points. Oh my gosh, I did notice that sign, but the exclamation points, that's a great Easter egg. Great job, Greg. Good eye. Oh my gosh. First of all, yes, the hair. I love that we both mentioned that. Yeah, I think, look, when I heard, you're right about her performance. You know, I was a little bit more kind about it. I was like, yeah, she's fine. I do think she's probably directed to be that sort of uninteresting. Yeah, Ned is super annoying. I'm not a fan, and I've already been superficial about his looks, and I'm not going to get into that again. But yeah, it's I think the actor who plays Duncan, and I'll get more into this in my final thoughts, but he's fantastic. So, but thank you, Greg, for your thoughts once again. Love them, love them, love them. And now it's time to close Greg's sack. Lunch. All right, my favorite Elaine moments. Hands down, the slow motion run to Jerry, and then the fall after he knocks her aside. All pure comedy by JLD, done so well. That look on her face, too, always gets me. Super funny. Close second is the little money. Are you a communist? I love that. I love that. And my final notes. I think this is a fun episode overall. I like the race stuff the best, like Greg. And it really does work because of the actor who plays Duncan. Like I said, Don McManus is awesome. What a great foe for Jerry. And I wish he would have come back. I don't know in what capacity, where he would have come back. But this guy is such a great actor. Like Lloyd Braun is to George, I feel like Duncan Meyer could have been the same to Jerry. I know we have Banya and stuff like that, but Duncan Meyer is a true foe for Jerry. So I just think, given that this actor is so fantastic, he could have come back. Elaine's plot is not my favorite. I think they could have pulled some other problems between them besides this whole Hop Sings thing and the drab clothing. Maybe Elaine shows her capitalism side too much or something. And those issues are presented very normal couple-y issues in that way. I also think Elaine would have had more of a point of view rather than just thinking dating a communist was cool. I feel like that coolness wears off and it ends up turning her off or whatever. But I kind of don't like that Elaine's very middle of the road about this communism stuff. But whatever, that's the choice. And let me point out again, Tom Gamble, Max Pross, never really write good Elaine stuff. There's no scene swap per se, but just a retooling of this Elaine relationship with her communist boyfriend. I mean, I know I said with Greg's comments, like, I don't really love the communism stuff either, but whatever, if that's the way they wanted to go. It has its fingers in a lot of the plots in the episode. I would have loved to have seen a double date between Elaine and Ned and George and the woman from the personal ad. I wanted to meet that woman and see her interaction with George. Forget the stupid Steinbrenner stuff, make that a thing. And then Elaine and George, we could get more interaction with them. They could commiserate about dating communists. Look, that solves it all. I did it. I figured it out. More Elaine and George interaction and no Steinbrenner crap. Ugh, so much funnier. All right, I think that's all I can say about the race. Please be sure to follow the podcast on social media. You can find Hot and Heavy on Instagram at Hot Heavy Elaine, on TikTok at Elaine Bennis Podcast. And if you'd like to email me, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.